Why is it that some companies age prematurely, bureaucratize, lose their energy, become unappealing to the young people, while others don't? Others stay innovative sometimes even for decades and go from success to success and are excellent at retaining the talent of their young people and therefore finding new ways of growth and innovation. We found that right now only 1 in 10 companies in the world, 1 in 10, achieves even a modest level in sustained and profitable growth on average over a decade, even though pretty much every single company in the world aspires to do this. I mean, how many things can you think of that everyone aspires to do, most people think they'll do, and only 1 in 10 actually achieve? We found that right now, in the average company, 85% of executives and 85% of case studies we looked at, the primary barrier to achieving sustained and profitable growth, achieving targets, were actually internal to the company. And in much larger companies, it got up to be as high as 94%. The third amazing fact we found is when we began looking at those companies that did go from success to success, let's say from the Fortune 500 companies, those companies like Nike or L Brands or Google that still have the founders deeply involved in the company, either as a chairman, a close advisor, board memberships, CEO, president, etc., that set of companies performed 3.1 times better in total shareholder returns over 15 years than all the other companies put together. Now, of course, in Bain & Company, naturally a very data-based organization, you always have your skeptics. And so I had partners coming to me and saying, well, come on, Chris, this is just an artifact of all the internet companies in the world who have exploded in value, like Facebook and Google. So, of course, we took that out. And it was still almost 3 times. Then somebody else came back and said, yes, but Apple is the most valuable company in the world. And that has exploded in value. This is hugely distorted by Apple. So we took that out, and it was still 2.7 times. In every single answer like that to a question that came up, we found that overwhelmingly those companies where the successful founder was still somehow deeply involved were performing radically and dramatically better. Now I want to talk about the 3 elements of the founder's mentality. So what are they? And we think at Bain, this is the best set of measures or best lens by which to look at the internal health of an organization. So the first one is what we called insurgency. Insurgency is about a mission that creates emotional content and enthusiasm. Insurgency is about building something for the long term, not about quarterly earnings. It's about being inspiring to young people, not just being like just another bank, just another insurance company. Now you might say this is obvious, but right now here's another really amazing fact. Only 13% of people in the average American company, according to the Gallup poll organization, say they have any emotional connection with the organization in which they work. It's basically just a place to go. And our research shows that if you have the founders, this element of the founder's mentality of insurgency, and you have this connection, you are about 4 to 5 times more likely to recommend your most talented friends to work there, and you are even more importantly maybe, 4 to 5 times more likely to take your own time to solve a problem, deliver a customer package on the way home, answer a call on a Sunday morning, offer an innovative idea, and that's just huge. The second element of the founder's mentality is what we called frontline obsession. Now, every founder was either the first salesperson, the person who turned the lights on and off at night, slept in the store, slept in the factory, maybe the product designer. And yet, as companies grow larger, layers come in, and people draw farther from the front line. And we found that the ability of a company to maintain the intellectual curiosity of a founder in its detail, to keep having the heroes be the baristas at Starbucks rather than someone in corporate headquarters, and to stay close to the customers so that they remain as much as possible names and not massaged averages and huge corporate market research reports, that actually kept companies grounded, gave them greater speed on what to react to in the marketplace, and created a much healthier culture. The third element is what we call owner's mindset. This is really the essence of private equity. It is what creates a sense of responsibility, a deep desire to get into the solution or confront problems fast than making them somebody else's problem. Just like for humans, there are predictable life passages of us with predictable crises, that for companies also have sort of a life cycle. And we found 3 predictable crisis periods that drove nearly 90% of all the big value swings in the stock market, which is kind of amazing when you think about it. One is what a company like Tesla is in now, which is what we called overload. It's a period we're trying to scale super fast, 5 to 10 times in a matter of years. Second thing is what we called stall out, which is what happened to Starbucks. A previously unbelievably successful model suddenly, out of the blue, in just a couple of years begins to wind down. And the third, that is much less common, but becoming more common, is what we call the crisis of free fall. This would be like if you're a taxi company and suddenly Uber comes in, or you're a New York a newspaper, and suddenly information is unbundled and on the internet. And when radical changes in business models happen, that's free fall. And yet, in all those three times, to rejuvenate a company or keep it young, these elements of the founder's mentality we found to be incredibly important. Every company begins with a lot of the founder's mentality. This is the founder's mentality, and this is scale, and this is low, and this is high. And every company wants to take the journey north, because you need scale to create opportunities, to create returns for investors, to be relevant competitively. But most companies, as they grow large, they become complex. And rather than the handful of companies here, by the way, 5 to 6% of companies do stay here for a while. You think of companies like Google would be an example, L Brands with Les Wexner is an example, amazing example, Nike's an example, frankly, my own company, Bain & Company. By contrast, most companies follow what we call the default path. And they lose these elements of the founder's mentality rapidly as they grow and create layers and create bureaucracies. And when that happens, sometimes you're lucky and you end up as a monopoly. So maybe Microsoft is one that had such a strong market share position. Brands, major brands, Coca-Cola, can stay up here for a while. But most companies actually get caught in the middle. And when you get caught in the middle, you lose the benefits of scale, and you don't have the benefits of the founder's mentality, and you're in no man's land. And it's really when companies turn into just another bank, just another consulting firm, just another insurance company, just another retailer. And this is a very bad place to be. You know, when you begin to lose the founder's mentality, you run the risk of going from founder to leaders, from leaders to managers, from managers to custodians, custodians to bureaucrats. You go from something special to just another company. And when you're just another company and you're run by people with bureaucratic tendencies, that's a very much weaker competitor in a world that is so fast moving with so many insurgent competitors attacking all the time.